And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, the Lakers Fast Break, where we cover the latest news and trends in the NBA for you right there at Lakers Fast Break. And I've got a great interview with Rich Cohen. Yes, author Rich Cohen. He just had an interview with him. You can check it out on the Lakers Fast Break channels, wherever you get your podcasts. He created an awesome book, and he wrote it strictly for the basketball fans out there. When the Game Was War, the NBA's greatest season. So go ahead and check that out today and get his book wherever you get your books. Also, as well, want to make sure everybody knows about, of course, not just Humanity Media, but of course, the Happy Hoarder. Go ahead and check out everything that you need for your gift giving guide. Yeah, Amazon Prime days are coming this week. Yeah, I know we are going to buy less stuff. But while you're in a shopping mood, please go ahead and check out the happyhoardercollectibles.com. Plus, also as well, check us out, popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. And of course, Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook, where you'll get the latest news and trends in pop culture each and every week, twice a week, wherever you get your podcasts. Our good friends, of course, Melinda and also her husband, Robbie Ross. Go ahead and check them out today. Vampires and Vitae. And of course, Wild Beyond the Witchlight with Wizards and Wine, wherever you get your podcasts as well. But it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. He is the Jack-o'-lantern king and getting into the spirit, the Halloween spirit, indeed. Pardon the pun with the Halloween chain. But we'll go ahead and talk about Halloween costumes next week. It is my good friend indeed. You got to go ahead and catch him today at the happyhoardercollectibles.com. He just finished another successful weekend of selling awesome Pop Culture Cosmos, pop culture merchandise. It is Josh the Great and Josh Peterson. Great to have you here, my friend. Looking forward to another great conversation in pop culture.
Hey, you know what's funny? I was thinking about this the other day, how many times that you and I have either interviewed people or been to events where we talked to people who all promised, swore up and down that they had the next big thing. And here we are years later, and hardly any of those big things even are like spoke about anymore.
You and I know, I mean, you've gone to several shows, trade shows yourself. We went to E3 together, and we've also gone to CS. I've gone to CS for what, 25 plus straight years, and I'm about
Hmm.
ready this week to go ahead and try and get there in there again. And you're right. You go there and you see people that are promising and swearing this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and it's so funny when somebody makes or finally does create something that's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Everybody else has their own version and jumps on it. I remember the Android systems. Remember the Android game systems that about
Yeah.
10 years ago or so? That, yes,
Yeah.
when everybody was into that for like a 10-second type deal, everybody at CES had an Android game player. And it was so funny because it was just companies that you didn't think would make Android, it's a game player. So they're like radio companies or, just as far as other camera companies or, other companies outside of general gaming companies were trying to make and get into their 2 cents as well. It's like you said, it's just, you got millions of promises and very few deliver.
Yeah, and I imagine it's hard to stay on top of the market in anything, related to phones or games. But so I remember two things specifically. I remember remember it was a phone camera lenses. We've talked to a few people about that. They sent us one to test, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then they're like, this is going to be the next big thing, and then it just vanished like overnight. You just didn't hear about that anymore. And then my favorite is Mixer. I
Hmm.
remember Mixer. You and I, or you did the interviews. I remember I was the
Yes.
cameraman, but that guy was sitting there like promising all these things that Mixer does, and
We're going to beat Twitch.
yeah, and that's what became of that?
Exactly.
Right?
And that was like Microsoft's venture into it, if I remember correctly.
That was, I remember they were doing the broadcast for I think the nail in the coffin was their E3 broadcast that one year. They're like, we're
Mhm.
using Mixer, and there was like 15 seconds of lag and it kept crashing, and it was a thing.
But will tell you what, though, there is still a lot of good stuff that's coming out there. In fact, this week, I want to go ahead and congratulate our good friend, Mr. Rob McCallum. Rob McCallum has directed an award winning documentary on Mr. Dressup, the Canadian hero of similar to what Mr. Rogers is to people here in the States. Kids of all ages are familiar with Mr. Dressup in the Canadian, just this television sphere. And my gosh, he has created a absolutely fantastic documentary that's gotten acclaim left and right. He's got sold out shows, sold out performances, sold out screenings that he's got up ahead, but still, even on top of that, a great run ahead on Amazon starting on the 10th. So if you've got Amazon Prime, after you finish your shopping, because Prime days are coming, I think on the 11th and 12th, if I'm not mistaken. And if that's the case, you can go ahead and check out on your Amazon Prime account, Mr. Dressup right there for you.
Yeah, seriously, really stoked. I've been following it as it's been happening, seen the pictures all over the place. I saw the interviews about it, and I could not be happier for our good friend Rob. So congrats, buddy.
That's so funny because I played the other week the replay of the original interview that he had with me years ago, and he was just like half the conversation about some of his other stuff, and half the conversation was on that. And it's like, oh, seems like it's going to be an interesting doc. And like all these years later, he is finally coming out to such worldwide acclaim, and I'm just so happy for him. But it is again, go ahead and check it out on Amazon Prime this week. It is Mr. Dressup, The Magic of Make Believe. Would really, really hope you go ahead and get a chance to do so. Nothing but praise for it. He's got front page acclaim on newspapers across Canada, gotten awards already at film festivals. So go ahead and check it out this week on Amazon Prime. But we've got a great show lined up for you. Got a lot of things to talk about, a lot of video games on the way, my friend. I saved a lot of the video game talk for you this week. I usually share between you and Melinda, but I know a lot of it was Xbox centric. So, since Melinda is still allergic to Xbox in many ways, I had to go ahead and front it to you. But obviously, the first thing we want to go ahead and talk about, and I will mention Top Gear here. We'll go ahead and integrate those two. But with the cancellation of Top Gear, a lot of people are upset about how are they going to get their driving fix. Well, they can still do so because this week on the Xbox Series S and X is Forza Motorsport. Your thoughts, my friend, on both the cancellation and ending of Top Gear on UK, because I guess the BBC, after 40 years, kind of canceled it out, and then also as well, Forza Motorsport coming to the Xbox.
So with Top Gear, it's I don't know. They've been trying so hard to keep that show relevant for so long. They've had, I want to say, probably 8 to 12 different hosts since Jeremy Clarkson and company left. And some of the episodes were okay. They weren't amazing by any stretch of the imagination, but the hosts just didn't have the chemistry. But a lot of people think it's because ratings got so bad. And the ratings did go down for Top Gear, but I think from what I understand of the story, one of the
It's
hosts.
still not canceled yet, according to some reports had it canceled. There were other sites purporting it, entertainment sites reporting it's canceled. Now Yahoo is saying that it may not be canceled yet, but things aren't good, man. And I know there was an accident also as well that kind of
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
derailed things.
One of the hosts like got in a car accident. It was just it
Freddie
mangled.
Flintoff.
Yeah, and it mangled his face, and it was becoming the things that they were doing that were becoming a liability. But those were the very things that made the show popular. That's why people kept going back to the show to watch. And so you got to kind of weigh, like, is it worth the cost? Because Top Gear is BBC's most expensive show, but also like think about the health insurance that they probably have to pay for, and the employee coverage that probably go all the stuff behind the scene that goes into keeping the host safe and all that. So what is the cost? Is the cost worth it?
Exactly, but it's a driving show, so there is always that risk in a driving show such as Top Gear. But we'll
Yeah.
see because whether you think it's canceled, whether it says it's been canceled or not been canceled, it is time. It's very tenuous right now for the future going forward for Top Gear UK.
Hey, but
Official.
the Grand Tour is still going, so we can at least be grateful for that.
That's true. That's true indeed. Devotion says they should revive the Twisted Metal franchise. It got pretty good reviews when it appeared as a live action adaptation on Peacock. But I don't hear anything emanating from that as far as on the Sony side, creating a new video game series or probably refreshing it. I'm assuming they'll go back to it at some point. But with the rumors of what's happened with Naughty Dog and the restructuring and the layoffs there in regards to a possible cancellation of the in development Last of Us multiplayer centric game that as far as the branch off from the regular games and the possibility that they're only just going to do a Last of Us 2 remastered game. It's kind of weird what's going on with Sony right now, but and then also Jim Ryan leaving. So who knows, Devotion, that may or may not happen down the road.
Yeah, also I have a feeling there were rumors a couple years ago that they were working on a new Twisted Metal game, but it was going to be a battle royale style Twisted
Hmm.
Metal, and I don't think that went over very well with people.
Yeah, because the
So
battle royale style kind of, outside of Fortnite, anything else competing in that genre has kind of.
yeah, but I mean, I definitely would be down for a Twisted Metal because Twisted Metal came out, before the era of like decent multiplayer games. I know Twisted Metal Black had a weird like online system that they were experimenting with, but yeah, if they could remake the game and make it so you can use like the modern, even turn it into some kind of like esports type arena, I think that would be a really cool opportunity for them.
Speaking of Fortnite, yes, I did hear about the Epic Games layoffs too. I know it's something that again that has been happening again. It's just sad to hear, but it was something that Josh and I had talked about for years. Is like how long can Fortnite sustain at such a higher level, a high level of just brilliance as far as being able to just rake in so much dough and rake in so much money. Blue Magic has got it right there. Thank you, Blue. 830 employees affected, almost 20% of the staff at Epic Games.
Crazy.
But Fortnite, I think again, Epic Games is basically outside of course, the Unreal Engine that they sell off to all the developers and publishers out there. The other way that they make money is through Fortnite. They don't have a list of games anymore that they have concurrently running that they make money off of. It was just selling off the Unreal Engine 5 and also Fortnite for all intents and purposes. And Fortnite was so huge for them. But you and I both talked about when is that going to start seeing a slide, and I think we're seeing it now.
Getting to that point. Yeah, isn't Rocket League is Epic too, isn't it?
I'm gonna go check. Maybe they bought it, but I don't think originally it was Rocket League. But I'm gonna go check. It was Epic, but let me go ahead and check right now for you on that. But yeah, just when if you can tell me your thoughts though on Forza Motorsport because it's this more simulation of the two Xbox centric, Xbox created driving games because we all know
Mm.
Forza Horizon 5 and that did was so well, and Forza Horizon series is more fun, more arcade based, whereas this is more simulation mode. Tell us your thoughts about getting into it as it heads out to Xboxes this week.
It's been a while since we've had a genuine Forza Motorsport experience,
And
and
by the way, it's Psyonix that makes Rocket League.
oh, that's right. Okay, okay, yeah. Because I always when we do esports, when I'm coaching esports, we have to use the Epic. You're only allowed to use the Epic game launcher to sign in for the esports
Okay.
for Rocket League. So that's where my brain was at there. Forza Motorsports, honestly, it is and there's probably a lot of people that will disagree with me, especially if they're in the Sony band camp, but um, it is the perfect racing simulator. They don't try to be anything more than that. And that was the problem with the latest Gran Turismo game to come out, was they were trying to be so many different things when all people really wanted from it was like a good racing simulator. Gran Turismo always has to be online, where Forza is a game you can play without being tied to the internet. Though, who's to say how much longer that style gameplay will last. But anyways, Um, yeah, I don't know. Forza has, they have contracts with a lot of, all the car companies and a lot of the big racetracks around the world. And, you could tweak everything in that game for your car to down to like weather settings and the temperature outside. Like it, I don't know, looking at this game, what it has to offer, I cannot think of anything else I would want from a racing game experience. And to add on to that, this new Forza is supposed to be have like 60 plus hours of gameplay on it. So it's not, it is I don't know, if you're into racing games, it doesn't really seem like you could go wrong playing Forza. And I know for the it's been getting like 8s and 9s across the board. So I'm excited about it.
And as a racing game, the racing games always look the best on console. The console, if you ever want to go ahead and showcase the power of consoles, you always showcase a racing game because for some, just the detail and things that nature as far as creating or seeing or playing a racing video game just accentuates everything as far as the power of what's created underneath. That goes back even before with just not the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series S and X. That goes back to
Mhm.
even when around the original PlayStation, like you said, with the original Gran Turismo that came out, and even before that with the N64, Dreamcast, and beyond. So it seems like this is just taking it a step further as far as the look and the design. It is stunningly beautiful. It is probably at this point in time the best looking game out on the market just from
Yeah.
graphics, but that's almost unfair because again, when you're looking at nothing but shiny hoods and or
Yeah.
beautiful detailed cars, it's almost unfair that that's the case. But the thing that I want before we hit the break, my friend, and I want to ask you is your thoughts though on people finding it approachable because yes, 8s and 9s, great scores. That's notwithstanding when it comes to Forza at this point in time is the fact that it's a simulation and it's more race based. Is it more approachable because everybody seems to go ahead and Forza Horizon has now taken over the more popular side or is the more popular of the two at this point in time than the original Forza Motorsport because Forza Motorsport was the actual original Forza game, but Horizon because of its I guess just way it's so inviting, it's more fun based, it's more arcade based, it's more party based. It just seems like it's more approachable to the average consumer and the average game player.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And Forza Horizon is the first racing game to experiment with an open world setting for a racing game. Nobody had ever done that before. And Forza Horizon came in and they did it, it was the first few entries were, it had some kinks to work out, but yeah, Forza Horizon 5, like I could honestly say like that's it's the perfect game. And
Yeah.
which is obvious by the fact that it got 9s and 10s from all the aggregate sites. But looking at Forza, I think Forza does a great job, even the motorsport version, like Forza does a great job of making racing accessible where PlayStation, like they don't the sorry, not PlayStation, Gran Turismo, Gran Turismo is more of an advanced driving simulator. Same thing with like the F1 games and the iRace and all that. People go to those games or they make those games expecting the people who play them to already be good at racing games. Forza does a good job of, if you are not familiar with racing games, they do a good job of walking you through how to play it, how the tracks work, how the car customizations work. Even with their automated braking line, they have all these driving assists that you turn off one at a time as you learn how to play the game. And that's something that's you or sorry, that's something that I think personally makes it more of an accessible game than some of the other racing titles out there.
That's so interesting though, because I saw a report on NASCAR.com this week that they officially announced that they're in league with iRacing. They've of course
Uh,
licensed their stuff for the PC, and they're iRacing is such a huge part of the racing computer scene that's out there because of they've got the really high end cars, really high end racing, very competitive. It is
mhm.
very costly because it's not a cheap venture to get into because you have to literally spend a lot of money, hundreds and hundreds of dollars in order to get at a very top level with all the different things you have to go ahead and purchase: cars, tracks, parts, etc., etc. now they talked about iRacing finally getting into the consoles market, and I'm interested to see if that's going to put a dent into Forza's marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see, especially since like you said, it's so expensive to get into iRacing. But is this also with NASCAR joining iRacing? Is this also going to add another mark to our failed ventures with our good friend Ren Vickers over at NASCAR Heat?
Yeah, I
Is that
think so.
game Did that game meet its demise? Then I'm
I,
assuming.
I'm pretty much say that is probably has, but iRacing is only best when you not just can do, of course, NASCAR, but when you can do IndyCar, when you can do Formula One, when you can do everything as far as because the iRacing is a league that you can create and just be competitive in, and just I mean even the lower class of cars that you can go ahead and drive in Class A, Class B, just the different styles of cars and leagues that you can go ahead that they have licensed over the course of years, and I'm hoping that they will bring all of that to a console format because if it's just another NASCAR game, my friend, I think that's also going to fall flat as well.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess that's the trick, right? Like, what are you gonna, especially if you're bringing something that is so advanced to consoles? What kind of peripherals are you gonna need? Like, are they gonna simplify it? And if they're gonna simplify it, why even bother playing it? It's one of those things where people go to it because it does allow you the opportunity to do things that you wouldn't normally be able to do just on a regular driving simulator.
Exactly. And this is, I mean, that's some high end stuff as far as the amount of money that you spend. But, people put, as far as everything from VR to actual physical canopies that they put inside their offices to go ahead and support that with full driving wheels and sticks and
Mhm.
and pedals and the whole nine yards. People spend hundreds of dollars on this iRacing experience. So it'll be interesting to see what they incorporate for the console experience or what they don't. So looking forward to that. But what are your thoughts out there on Forza Motorsport, which comes out this week for the Xbox? Please let us know your thoughts. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Well, my friend, before we hit the half hour break, I wanted to go ahead and ask you real quick. I don't want to see if I think I'll wait for after the break to get into your favorite gaming subject, Assassin's Creed Mirage. But I wanted to hear your thoughts. You and I have seen it all when it comes to a game and microtransactions, but EA Sports, they lost the FIFA license, my friend, but my God, they're back. They are so brazened, like the 2K experiences. They're back with EA Sports FC, licensing whatever they can outside the FIFA license as far as in the soccer slash football world. But my friend, it's a $70 game, and they're talking about not only the usual microtransactions on top of it, but there's a $30 loot box which you can get, which I've been told and actually seen that's pay to win. That to me is extremely unfair in the fact that you can actually spend money on something that you will not guarantee you, but will go ahead at least allow you to go ahead and be way more competitive than against somebody else you might be competing against with. So your thoughts, my friend, on EA Sports FC up to its old tricks despite not having the FIFA license.
So when EA said that they were going to still make a soccer game outside of the FIFA license and it was going to be a fictitious soccer league, did we really expect them not to riddle this game with microtransactions and pay to win scams and whatever else they probably will make you pay? Like, I'm
Yeah,
surprised
I know
that
it's EA. Why I should not give them a break. I mean, with Star Wars Jedi Survivor, everything was going to go great with that, but then they came out and it was like a buggy launch, especially on PC.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's EA. Yeah,
It wouldn't surprise me if they came out with a game or whatever where you had to pay $5 to even access like the start menu that lets you pick like the difficulties and all that. You want to change it to easy, that'll be $9.95, please.
that's soon. If they haven't gotten the idea, you just gave it to them, my friend.
Oh no, it's my
Thanks a
fault.
lot. Thanks.
I'm copyright team. That's how you copyright.
There you go. But I will say though, it scares me though with the way that they're going to go ahead and treat Mass Effect when that finally comes out, as far as the reboot of that series. So we'll see what happens there, my friend. But when it comes to EA Sports FC not having the FIFA license, uh, I don't know. I don't think it will have the same effect. I already told you the stories, my friend, before on this show, exactly when I used to run game stores in here in Las Vegas, and I used to prioritize the FIFA games because I saw at that point in time it was smaller, but it was growing. And there was a large contingent that wanted to go ahead and really get into it. And back in 2007, 2008, they were really just starting the drive towards making it one of the world's most popular games at that point in time. So you could see where it was going. And then obviously, the last decade plus, we saw FIFA dominate the charts like very few other games have. EA Sports FC is EA Sports still trying to reach and hang on to something that's still there, and we still have yet to see what FIFA has in store for us. And remember, there was still another game series from Konami, PES Soccer, that I don't know what happened to them. We talked about how they went and they changed their whole moniker, changed the whole name, changed the whole style of gameplay, and it didn't work out well. So let's just leave it at that. But with FIFA still developing their own game that's still yet to come out. What are your thoughts on EA Sports still trying to get a hold of that market?
I don't know. I don't see it happening. Like FIFA is a big name brand, and I don't soccer people who like soccer games, they're gonna go after the FIFA brand. Like I personally, like I wouldn't want to play in a a fictitious soccer league, especially if I'm gonna have to like pay extra money. I feel like FIFA is gonna they'll probably have microtransactions, but it'll be a lot more fair.
Are you sure about that?
Possibly. Hey, whatever happened? Remember the Winning 11 soccer franchise like that? I remember
Yeah.
playing those on PlayStation 2. Those were fun. Like that was back when the sports weren't licensed to one company. That's what we need to come back. Like we
That's
need to
exactly 100%. I was just saying that the other day, and like back when you used to have, like, for instance, NBA games back in the day, 2K, EA, Microsoft, Sony, they all around the same time had their own produced NBA games because NBA licensed it to all of them. Same thing with NFL. Remember the old battle between Madden and the NFL 2K games, and still people still to this day swear that NFL 2K5 is the best football game ever. I agree with you, and it should just go back to a
because
universe where everybody can make a video game on it.
that's what we need. It'll stop situations like this. It'll stop people from, stop these developers from basically robbing people. And then it will give a it creates a market that's a lot more fair. And yes, you're right. NBA Inside Drive on the PlayStation. Do you remember those games? Like
Yep.
those were amazing. Loved them.
Mhm. I'm telling you, my friend, we got to go back to that. I agree with you 100%. Yeah, but it's something right now, unfortunately, we just have very few options for soccer/football games. And unfortunately, EA Sports FC has come out and really not made a lot of people happy with the amount of microtransactions, and also as well the $30 loot box on top of the $70 game you already have to buy. So a lot of people are not thrilled with the options that EA has implemented into its latest soccer/football game. So we'll see what happens, but we'd love to hear your thoughts on EA Sports FC. Are you okay with this new envisionment of what's going on with soccer and football for Electronic Arts, and their I guess after the departure of them, and also as well with FIFA, while FIFA's developing its own game? Your thoughts on this? Are you okay with what's going on with EA Sports FC, or are you like a lot of people out there are angry, 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 angry at the pay to win options now available on EA Sports FC? Please let us know your thoughts. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Well, my friend, one half hour down, one half hour to go here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. It's Gerald Glasser along with my good friend, Mr. Josh Peterson. Please go ahead and check out all the awesome stuff that he has got for sale for you right now, and also the stuff that you can pre order at happyhoardercollectibles.com, including My Hero Academia, Funko Pops, Oh, I see a few right there for you. And then also as well, Dragon Ball Superhero Goku. Yeah, it's also available for pre-order. Plus, there's a ton of stuff you could buy, including the Balrog looks good. The Funko Pop Balrog, my friend, looks good with Lord of the Rings stuff action going on. Go ahead and check it out today at happyhoardercollectibles.com. But this week in the box office, a quiet week. I did talk about it with Melinda at length about The Exorcist Believer. And it's not the fact that it got horrible reviews. It's not the fact that it actually underperformed at the box office, only getting $27 million domestically and about $50 million worldwide. That's not the big part of it. The big part of it was what was mentioned was on that show, we were talking about more about how Universal, to get the rights to the Exorcist franchise, spent $400 million on this, my friend. $400 million on the Exorcist franchise, and it already looks like it's going to be a poor investment indeed. Your thoughts, my friend, on this when you see the results from this weekend at the box office and realize Universal probably just ditched a whole lot of bad money.
Yeah, they need to really exercise that franchise out of their repertoire.
Oh,
Thank you, thank
oh.
you. No, okay, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know what made them think that this was going to be a good idea because then
You know
haven't
why?
they?
The Conjuring. They saw a universe that they could create, and they have as many like what? Because we were talking about on the Friday show. What? There's nine, eight, nine, or 10 Conjuring movies now that are
Oh
out.
yeah, there's a ton of them. But I
Yeah,
mean, look
they
at
were
this.
looking to
So
do the same thing.
yeah, but look at every time a horror movie like from the 70s or 80s does well and becomes a cult classic, they try to add on to it at different periods. They'll wait like 5 to 10 years. Exorcist 2, there's Poltergeist 2, there's a Poltergeist remake, a Friday the 13th remake. None of those films even got a quarter of the box office returns or any type of return as the first one. So like I don't know what made them think that, hey, let's go back and let's revisit this franchise. It was such a cult classic film back in the day, and let's see if we could do it better, because no, they can't do it better. And they're foolish to think that.
Well, this reminds me a lot of their last major investment that I heard them getting themselves into. And if you remember, when Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU, everybody said, we got to do our own universe. Remember Universal when they said they wanted to create their own monsterverse and it started and ended with The Mummy?
See, I was actually really bummed about that because that actually sounded really cool to me.
Mhm.
And then the Mummy came out, and it was yeah, it was like when you're expecting like a cone of vanilla ice cream, but instead someone filled it with butter.
Melted butter at that. Yes. It
Yeah, it's
was.
just not what you expect.
Yeah, I remember seeing it in the theaters and thinking to myself, what did I get myself into? This is some bad stuff. And it just really was not good at all. And yeah, just led to the instant deletion of the whole MonsterVerse concept. And it looks like, I don't know if they'll do the same thing again. I think they'll try and hit you up again with something in the Exorcist realm, but it already looks like Universe is going to take a big, huge bath on the Exorcist.
Well, okay, so you were talking about The Conjuring and the Insidious franchise. You know why those movies did so well?
Mhm.
Because they didn't try to build on an existing franchise. They started their own,
That's correct.
and
Absolutely.
it
And they kept the prices low to make them to
mhm,
start off with.
kept the budgets low, and look where it got them now. They didn't say like, "Oh, hey, let's go and take what's it called? They Live. Let's take They Live and let's make a whole cinematic universe around it," because that's just not going to work. They
I
took
kind
a
of
new
like They Live though.
No, no, I mean, They Live was a great movie, but, like, they took they took the concepts, the inspirations from these movies that they like, and they created something new with it. Instead of trying to add, the Poltergeist 2, Friday the 13th, 34, or whatever it is, they made something new, and it resonated well with a modern audience.
That's true. And of course, we've seen the success from The Conjuring and spin-offs. The Nun, too, just came out recently, and that came out, and I'm sure that made them a tidy little dollar. But Yeah, when you're spending the kind of money on trying to buy your way into your own universe, obviously we've seen the results from that, and it's not going to work out well for Universal when it comes to the Exorcist and the Exorcist Believer. But my friend, I think this was something where it was doomed to fail in the first place, because you got to remember the Exorcist Believer moved back a week because next week the box office is going to be dominated by Swifties, my friend. T Swift next week.
Oh, that's right. I forgot they're showing her era tours in movie theaters.
Absolutely. It's already earned $100 million in pre-sales. Speaking of pre-sales, not only should they pre-order your stuff on Happy Hoarder Collectibles, but they've been pre-ordering a whole bunch of tickets for the Taylor Swift movie. So definitely looking forward to seeing how much money that makes this coming weekend. It's already guaranteed over $100 million domestically. So definitely looking forward to seeing what that will do over the next. It's got a limited run. I think of about 3 weeks. I think so we'll see what happens there. But what are your thoughts out there on the disappointing effort and the lack of foresight in investing in the Exorcist? Go ahead and let us know your thoughts on Exorcist Believer. Do you think it's worth believing that Universal can still make a profit off this series? Please let us know. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. But my friend, speaking of something that is good and that is back and that is on Disney Plus, it is Loki season 2. First episode dropped. Got a chance to see it before I went on the Friday show. Thought it was okay for what it was. It was very, because it deals with time travel a lot, it was very explanatory. And sometimes when you do a lot of that, it can get over people's heads. And I was saying to Melinda how I think even the actors themselves had a hard time fully investing into it, because there's so much you're trying to explain in regards to the different time travel sequences and the branching off of time, and what they need to do to go ahead and try and fix things, and what they need to do during the course of that episode. So it got a little bit almost like a Star Trek episode where you're talking about way too much about what's going on the Enterprise mechanically. So it just seemed like it was just so mechanical in its conversations. But what are your thoughts about you getting back into Loki season 2? Again, the stuff where they're going after Sylvie, they're obviously He Who Remains. Those are the intriguing parts, because they start dealing with stuff that's yet to come in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But your thoughts, my friend, on Loki season 2?
So I actually did not get a chance to finish the first one. I think I got like 6 episodes in. I keep meaning to go back to watch it. I I like it. I mean, I think it's a one of the more well put together shows that Marvel has put out on Disney, or that Disney's put out in the Marvel universe.
Hmm.
Loki season 2, from what I understand, is I've read a lot of reviews about it, and they're trying so hard to top, what made the elements that made the first season so great, and some of them aren't quite hitting the mark. But
Yes.
you're talking about time travel. They had the same problem with the Flash television show. They're talking about time travel, and it's really hard to take a concept like that and simplify it. I know, like, writers like to keep to that concept, especially with TV, like, Kiss, keep it simple, stupid, and it's impossible to do that when you're talking about time travel. So, and I even think to myself, like, what if they just, like, don't talk about, what if they just do it and hope the audience catches on that way? But there is no such thing as a simple time travel story.
No, no. It's just funny because what popped up on my YouTube algorithm the other day was Time Cop, with Jean Claude Van Damme.
Mm,
And it's funny because they didn't really try to explain too much from it. They just had bad guy keeps jumping back in time to go ahead and do a lot of bad stuff. And Jean Claude Van Damme goes back in time to save the day. And yes, that's pretty much it. When you get too much into explanations on timelines and branching out and things that you have to do to repair or save the timeline, it gets too talky, and it gets
yeah,
something where it just detracts the a large part of the audience that wants to see just fun, action, and humor, and it just takes away from that when you have to do so much explaining.
explain
Because
it, backstory. Yep, yep.
yeah, and it's not even backstory. It's just explaining. It's just explaining about what's going on as far as from the events of what happened at the end of season one, which you haven't seen yet, the season two ramifications of that just led to a whole lot of explaining. Now I'm hoping that we were just set up with all this in episode one, so that episode two, three, four, and beyond will move much cleaner and move much more fluidly. And I have no problems with that. That's the case. It's just that you need to buy in viewers to come back after what, a year and a half gone
Mhm.
by. You need to buy them back in on why you need to go ahead and check out Loki. And maybe you want to do it with a little bit less talking, a little bit more action.
Yeah, and now that we are fighting this, we're in a state of superhero fatigue. Like it just
Hmm.
doesn't. Maybe that was not the best way to open up the episode. Maybe it's just the best way to do it would have just been to have like action taking place, and then as the season went on, kind of explain the whole time paradox stuff.
Well, there's been more misses than hits by the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the superhero genre in reality and detail in the past 18 months. So we've seen a lot of hits and misses there, but more misses than hits. I know that Martin Scorsese is somewhere just laughing and just enjoying this. And as far as the actual problem of what's going on with the superhero genre, and that it's kind of not being able to find that continuous hit time in and time out, which I'm sure he's glad with. And I'm sure, I heard Jessica Lange said she's thinking about going into retirement, simply, at great actress that she is, and part of the reason is because she never wants to be part of those superhero genres dominating the universe. Well, right now, as I get into your question, just sec problem child. Right now, the whole concept of superhero movies, even with the Marvels and Aquaman coming out, I don't have the most confidence in either of those two being a hit 100% because of what's gone on the past 18 months with the superhero genre.
Yeah, yeah, and you add into that the actor strike and all that. Like there is that definitely didn't help things, but yeah, it's I don't know, man. Like we're going into this weird time where the tried and true superhero movie formula is just not working the way it used to. And I don't know if that's because people are craving more substance to their films or they're just getting worn out of the same things over and over again, but something's gonna have to change. Something's got to give, or else all these like plans that Marvel has, plans that DC has, are they're going to fall flat.
Absolutely, and that's something that you and I took note about quite a bit of ways from now. I mean, we actually remember the time where we were talking about it was leading in this direction for both Marvel and DC. So they're both seeing some growing pains and some struggling signs. I will say though that there's some great questions before we head to the break. Devotion says, "You guys anticipate more layoffs in the game media industry?" Absolutely,
Yeah.
because of the economy the way it is right now, and the fact is there are games that are out there that have it's such a very competitive marketplace. There's games that have flourished and games that have not done as well, even despite some of the great reviews that we've seen. The EA, for instance, as far as the Immortals game that came out last month or in August, that game, that Mortals of Atrium, I think, or something. What that game came out to decent reviews, but that came out to horrible sales, and that came out right away, just tanked. So that development staff, I heard, has been slashed already, and I really think there are other games that are on the way that we're going to see over course of the next few weeks that are going to be touch and go. I think Alan Wake 2, which is something you are really eyeing on, that's got to do well, but is it going to be large enough to go beyond a niche audience? Because if that doesn't, then you could see a layoff there with Remedy Studios as well.
Yeah, it's funny too because it really is it's a niche game with a niche audience, and I don't. It was smart of them to re-release and remaster the original Alan Wake. So we'll see if that makes any progress there. I think they're really hoping that people who played Control will go back and jump into this world. It's a big risk because it's not a big well-known franchise.
We do a list every year of the best of at the end of every year, but I can tell you right now some of the best of pop culture I have. Oppenheimer, as far as the movie right now, the movie's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part One. Those are some of the better movies I've seen this year. Barbie also needs to be put in that context as well. As far as I thought that was a pretty good movie as well. I think those are some of the best movies I've seen this year. But I have a lot on my list I have to go ahead and check out between now and the end of the year. I usually spend November cramming everything in there so I can get my best of list together for movies. I usually spend a portion of my last quarter of the year trying to catch up on all the TV, all the movies, and all the video games. I might be able to go ahead and say which ones are the best of the year. But those are the ones I've said right now that are in the mix. As far as some being some of the best pop culture right now, the best movies right now. Anything you've seen so far, might be meeting your list on the best of pop culture so far, Josh.
Like I said before, I really enjoyed the movie Air. I know it wasn't popular with is
It's on
you,
Amazon, I think,
Brenda,
right?
or yeah, but Air was really good. I enjoyed that one. I haven't watched a whole lot, maybe like 5 or 6 movies. I liked Air, and 65 with Adam Driver was actually a really cool movie. But other than that, I haven't really. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I need to sit down and watch some things. I've been really enjoying some of the TV releases, but
Yes, that I have. Yes.
yeah, but movie-wise, I've been kinda not able to sit down and watch anything.
Because I can tell you right now, TV wise, if you haven't seen The Last of Us on Max, that is probably some of the best right there for you. I tell you, that will be high up on my best of pop culture 2023. Also, as well, you're talking about if you get a chance, Star Trek Picard season three. I think the first half of it was really good. Star Trek Strange New World season two had some really high moments as well. Bono and the Edge, a sort of homecoming. Speaking of what we talked about on Friday with you two at the Sphere, Bono and the Edge of Sort of Homecoming is a can't miss uh, I guess it's a documentary type deal where they go back to Ireland and play some of their hit songs, just those two, not the rest of you two. But also David Letterman's a part of it as well. Those are some of the highest ranked ones I could say. Winning Time season two is also something I think people need to check out, even though it got the cancellation. I think it was better than season one. So yeah, there's some good stuff right now that I've actually seen and experienced, but more of it on the TV end than the movie end. But I will be catching up before we do our best of here later this year.
Yeah, hopefully, like, our our list is made up of more than, like, 6 movies.
Yeah, this is true. This is true indeed. But what are your thoughts out there on everything that's going on with Loki? Please let us know your thoughts. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Well, my friend, it's been a great episode. But before I let you go ahead and take the floor talking about what's going on at Happy Hoarder Collectibles after you just got off a fantastic selling weekend, as I saw on your social media, want to go ahead and talk about your favorite game series. Well, at least you've said this in the past. I don't know if it still is, but Assassin's Creed Mirage. Assassin's Creed Mirage came out this past weekend. Your thoughts, my friend? Getting pretty solid reviews out there still. It is no longer the 100 million hour quest that it was with previous iterations, which for your OCD might be a lot better. Your thoughts, my friend, on this
Right.
return to form for Assassin's Creed?
Yeah, I was chatting about that with Brian and Eric from the Super BS, and we were talking about how it's unfortunate that this game is not like a standalone experience. It's reliant on characters from the previous iteration, which is Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And in order to like understand where the character's at, you have to have also played like the expansion. So I want to play it, but I want to play the expansions first so I can get filled in on that story. The gameplay looks really cool. Like I love the idea of going back to the Middle East, kind of stomping around where Altair used to be, and get having that like that smaller Assassin's Creed experience that we used to have. I, for one, though, really loved the RPG elements of the last games. Obviously, I don't like having the massive maps in the 160-hour game, but I like being able to upgrade my character stats and things like that. So I'm just hoping that some of that stuff is at least left in the game, or maybe when the Assassin's Creed game that takes place in Japan comes out, that they'll be able to put some of that stuff back in there. But Mirage is, I don't know, it's looks cool. It's not anything that's not been done before by them. So part of me is wondering if it started out as like an expansion and they were like, oh, it's too big to be an expansion. Let's just make it a game. So I will have more to say when I actually get to play it. But yeah, it looks cool so far.
You have been a big supporter of the Assassin's Creed franchise when they were doing the Call of Duty thing and coming out with one every
Mhm.
single year. After a while, you had championed, them slowing down the series, and they heard you. They heard you, and they decided to go ahead and, you know what, we're going to go ahead and bring one not out every year, but they still have big plans for the series as being their marquee franchise going forward.
Yeah, they obviously that episode we did on the Assassin's Creed games that all of our listeners were in where is it, Montreal or wherever you saw Quebec or wherever the studio's from. They were listening. They knew what we wanted from an Assassin's Creed game, and like we're gonna do this for them.
I tell you what, though, when it comes to what Devotion's asking for in the chat, I got to hear your Halloween horror movie recommendations. Stay tuned, because we usually do that right on the week of Halloween. So the 29th is the day we record for that week. So hopefully Josh will be with me and we can go ahead. We usually do this every year on the recommendations for either streaming or movies to go ahead and recommend for that Halloween horror right there for you. Absolutely. So yes, there will be a Halloween themed pop culture cosmos that is coming on the way later this month. So definitely looking forward to it indeed. But yeah, I'm definitely looking also forward to hearing your thoughts on the Assassin's Creed. It's been hard for me to get back into the series since Black Flag, because I thought Black Flag was a high water
It's
mark for the series.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the thrill of what you could do outside of just going ahead and looking for your target and jumping down or jumping into a hay bale. This was something much more. The ships and as far as that was concerned, that part of it, it was like the Sea of Thieves and Assassin's Creed had a baby, and there you go. That was just something I thought at that point in time back in what 2013, 2012, maybe a little bit earlier. Was
Yeah, whenever the Xbox One released, that was like
2013,
one of the
2014 in that range.
release titles for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was the high watermark for the series.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was an amazing game. Like Odyssey was all right, but like Assassin's Creed Black Flag is hands down like I would look at that as being like an essential Assassin's Creed experience. They're actually, from what I understand, there's rumors that they're going to remaster it or remake it for modern consoles. So a good excuse to go out and play it again. But yeah, I don't know. There's just something about the character and the setting, like everything just came together perfectly for that game.
Everything's being remastered. And when you hear that, after the layoffs in regards to the Last of Us multiplayer, but you hear a Last of Us remastered, Last of Us 2 remastered game coming out for a game that's what, 5 years old, I think.
They did the same thing though with the remake of The Last of Us. Like nobody
Yeah,
wanted that.
they
It's
remastered the remake of the actual original Last of Us. Yes.
Yeah, and they're like, we're in the process of remaking The Last of Us Part 2, which literally just came out like 2 years ago.
Absolutely. So it's so funny how the way the video game industry is. But I do want to go ahead before we head on out, my friend. Lies of P. If you have an Xbox, even if you got a PlayStation 5, and you please go ahead and make sure this is something that you've got to go ahead and look towards. If you have a video game system out there on PC, Lies of P right now, Xbox Series X and Xbox One. There's actually a hard copy, but it's also on Games Pass, my friend. I know they were asking the chat about the layoffs, about the other game studios that could be as far as could be suffering a layoff. If people do not get into Lies of P, which is now available on PC and Xbox, if you do not get into that, this is a studio right here that could be very much of a problem indeed. This is a really solidly reviewed game, but still it has a tenuous future. So please play it on Xbox Games Pass.
Yeah, I downloaded it. I just haven't had a chance to sit down with it. Looking at layoffs though, let me ask you a question. Do you think that this has more to do with the fact that these developers are so greedy for our time, making these 160-hour games? Like some people only get to play like one or two games a year, Whereas, back with PlayStation 1 and Nintendo 64 and all that, like you probably played 10 to 15 games a year. Do you think that that has anything to do with like the issues that the gaming industry is facing, or you think it's just like mixture of the economy and them overestimating what gamers want? Do you think there's more? What do you think is the cause of it?
Well, I think also it's part of it's the economy, just the way it is. But the fact is, you have to go ahead in order to make there's no double A games. There's no mid level games anymore. A game like Lies of P is probably the closest that you'll see to a mid level game because it came out with Newitz Games and Round Eight Studio. This is a developer and publisher that's not large enough to do these things where they can go ahead and release it, mass release it, and going to have a triple A following. They had to go ahead and put it on Games Pass in order to guarantee a certain amount of money coming in because it's not a large enough studio to go ahead and support itself. But it is a very good, highly rated Souls-like game. But if it's not played by everyone out there, it will actually die, and that just takes away from one of those mid-tier developers that hasn't been bought out and it's just another failure story because you either have the indies right now or you have the big AAA developers simply because the costs are so inordinate now of creating it. If you do not have a hit, your time is very limited.
Yeah, it's one of those big risk, big reward situations, or big risk, no reward, in which case you end up having to lay off your team. So it's video game making a video game is it's such a big gamble these days.
Hmm. I know that you got Problem Child mentioned Dead Island. I mean, I replayed the original Dead Island, but Dead Island 2, how long did that take, to finally get to a development for years and years and
It
years
was actually canceled at one point.
yes. Yeah, so and finally came out and nobody seemed to care because it came out way too late and it just seemed like nobody seemed to care about when it finally came out earlier this year, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it just is something that even though it got decent reviews, nobody really seemed to care. But I hope people care about Lies of P. Please go ahead and give it a chance. All you Xbox and PC gamers out there, please let us know your thoughts as if you think this is really a good Souls like game. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Before I get to you, letting everybody know, my friend, on what's going on with Happy Hoarder Collectibles, Devotion has the last question. Are movie studios suffering similar layoffs like the video game industry? Right now, Devotion, because they're not making anything right now and they're losing money hand over fist because they're not producing anything and they're having to stretch out whatever content they've already made. Yeah, there's been some layoffs here in the industry with studios. So it will be something that you can see clearly here coming up here in the not too distant future as the fallout from the strike. But your thoughts, my friend, on this before we head on out. Your thoughts on the movie industry suffering the same fate as what we're seeing in the video game market?
I well, yeah. I mean, it they seem different. It's all connected. It's all kind of the same politics, the same studios. Look at like what was it, Warner Brother Games? They're still controlled by Warner Brother Studios. I think everything directly affects the everything else in the entertainment industry, and with video games especially, like look at that, they're talking about having a voice actor strike. Like there's
Yep.
whisperings of a voice actor strike, and they're seeing what's going on with the actor strike and the writer strike, and they're saying, okay, well, maybe we can get what we want by doing the same thing. And if the voice actor strike happens, we are going to truly see a lack of video games coming out for a very long time. So I hope that doesn't happen, but it's seems like it has had a direct influence on the video game industry.
So, my friend, it's been a great episode, and I've got a little tidbit before we head on out, my friend. But before we do, it's time for you to pitch what's going on with HappyHoarderCollectibles.com.
Okay, so happyhoardercollectibles.com. We got a lot of Funko Pops, Lord of the Rings, a lot of new things coming in. I got to get that website updated, and I'll have some more pre-order forms up there for some new stuff coming out. Let's see, we got some new Pokemon cards coming in. We got the Japanese Raging Surf arriving at some point. I know the Paradox Rift set is coming out here at some point. We are going to be doing a Comic-Con in December, and it's supposed to have like the entire cast of One Piece is going to be there. So if you're out in Texas, definitely check out the Elite Comic-Con. We'll be at some Oktoberfest events here the next couple weeks. But yeah, definitely keep checking us out. Follow us on Instagram, and we'd really appreciate it.
To answer Lifted's question, how many movie studios are also own video game developers? Not too many. Warner Brothers is also the other one, but theirs kind of shaky right now. All depend. A lot of it's dependent on what happened with Mortal Kombat. I do know Sony, of course. Microsoft has gotten into it before as far as created movie studios, but they kind of ditched that, shortly after developing it. So they usually for their stuff, like for instance, the Halo series, they just let it, Paramount take over on that end as far as develop that series. Nintendo, I think tried to get into it a little bit themselves, but I think after the lack of success of the original Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers movie, they kind of, decided let's just go ahead and work with people. So they worked with Universal to create the hit of Super Mario Brothers this year. But yeah, definitely Warner Brothers and Sony at this point in time as far as movie studios and the video game developers and publishers that they are. But before we head on out, my friend, I want to go ahead and mention a little tidbit before we head on out because you and I love our fast food. BK's Ghost Pepper Burger, which is very popular in the past, that was brought back. But also the big news, and it's not just the sweet and sour sauce at McDonald's to commemorate Loki, is the fact that guess what's coming back in November, my friend? Huh? The McRib, which was thought to be dead, which they announced was dead, which they insinuated was dead, it ain't so dead after all.
McDonald's is very smart in their marketing strategies. I always tell people, especially in collectibles, like you slap a limited time sticker on there, say like, "Hey, they're not going to make this anymore." People be like, "Oh, I'll buy 5 of them." So they've been very clever with their marketing, saying that I don't think they ever had any intention on not selling the McRib anymore. They were just trying to create the hype for it, create the demand, get people to long for it, and then when they launch it again, boom, they've made millions of dollars off hungry customers.
And we will be two of those hungry customers come November for that. Any last questions, my friend, out there, or any last thoughts before we head on out?
No, not that I can think of. Yeah, definitely looking forward to talking some Halloween movies. That'll be fun. And
Yes. And Halloween
yeah,
costumes next week. What's trending in Halloween costumes? If you haven't shopped for it yet, shop for your Halloween costume
get
now.
it
It's the best
done.
ones.
And lifted. I unfortunately we don't have. I'm out in Texas and we don't
But you're
have any Carl's.
Hardee's now.
No, we. I mean, yes, there are Hardee's out here, but we don't have like in my area. The closest Hardee's to me is about 60 miles, so I don't really get to eat there anymore.
Carl's is pretty solid with me, although it gets in today's marketplace. Carl's is unfortunately, there are a number of in and outs, Raising Canes. There are a number of places, Chick-fil-A, that seemingly are have taken over the marketplace from spots like Carl's Jr. But yeah, still like a Carl's Jr. every now and then. Endorphin says the celebrity meals that McDonald's has used recently was genius, but I wonder how effective it was. I know it spikes short-term sales for them, depending on the star that endorses it, but you see them not doing it right now. So I think they're more focused on promoting the McRib coming November. Popeyes is your thing, Southern Comfort. Well, Popeyes, remember when they came out with the chicken sandwich? That was all the rage, my friend. But unfortunately, it's pretty much gone by the wayside, and they're just another place now.
I have never actually I have. I've eaten at Popeyes once and I keep meaning to like go back to it and see if I like it.
Mhm.
But we got so many chicken places out here. It's hard to pick one.
Yep, I hear you, my friend. The fast food wars continue, and we'll always keep you updated right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. So for Josh the Great, aka Josh Peterson, it's Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day. Jersey Mike's. Yes, can't go wrong with Jersey Mike's. Have a great evening, everyone. Stay safe.